The first round of the NBA draft is officially complete, and we have finally a Sixers player to actually talk about. No speculation, no more could happen, could happen. Jared McCain is officially a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. I want to break down in this video why I think he could be one of the biggest steals of this entire draft class, why he's ready to make a day one impact, more so than people are giving him credit, and why everybody should be ready to embrace this fun-loving personality that is coming to Philadelphia. So the Sixers started the night on the clock with the 16th overall pick, and that's exactly how they left it. There was no movement, there was no trades, there was no Daryl Morey working the phones and adding this pick to this blockbuster deal or a win-now piece. They stood there and they selected Jared McCain. Now, who is Jared McCain? Let's start with what he brings on the court. Jump into his stats. He spent 1 year at Duke, a one-and-done player, played all 36 games for the team, averaged 14.3 points per game overall, 5 rebounds, which is really intriguing for a guard who measured in at just 6'3", 1.9 assists per game, which you want a little higher, and frankly, I think he's a better playmaker than the numbers indicate for that. 1.1 steal per game, shot 41.4% from 3 on 5.8 three-point attempts per game, 88.5% three-point shooter there. The guy is a stone-cold shooter. That is the biggest thing that you're going to take from Jared McCain. He's a guy that is going to let it fly from deep and can knock it down. That with all the talk about the Reed Shepherds of the world who went number 3 overall to the Houston Rockets there, or even Zachary Reese-Shea who went number 1 off the board to the Atlanta Hawks, I think there's a real world where this draft is revisited, and Jared McCain is the best shooter in this draft. And to feed into a little bit for why I do think that is the case, let's jump into a couple advanced stats here. He was ranked in the 86th percentile on all jump shots, the 74th percentile in spot-up opportunities. He shot 39.5% from 3 on pull-ups, and also 42% in the catch and shoot, which ranked in the 91st percentile across college athletes there. That's really good stuff. And as far as if you want to really shoot for the skies and talk about how good his production was in that lone season at Duke, they want to pull up this stat here, that there have been 14 freshmen in NCAA history with a .550 plus true shooting percentage, 210 plus three-point attempts, and 150 plus rebounds among them. Steph Curry, Jamal Murray, Brandon Miller, D'Angelo Russell, Gary Trent Jr., OJ Mayo, Brandon Knight, and Jared McCain. So not bad company to associate yourself with there. He is a guy who I do believe is ready to make a day one impact despite being just 20 years old, just turned 20, again, a one and done at Duke. Now, the other side of things are some of the concerns that I've seen flowing out from Twitter already, far beyond what I expected. He is a unique guy. He does do TikTok dances. He does paint his nails, and to get a look at what he is, repping the bonnet, doing the heart, all these things, and I don't care a bit about it because the dude can absolutely shoot the snot out of the basketball, and that's what's most important there. That don't confuse the nail polish or the TikTok dances by any means that this guy is soft, because that is the opposite of who Jared McCain is. He's a competitor, and by the way, he embraces himself to a level that I fully respect and feels to be built for. That he did have this quote immediately following being drafted, which I like quite a bit. He said, quote, "At Duke, it's a big platform in college. Obviously, that comes with a lot of hate and a lot of scrutiny wherever you go. But I think that's prepared me for where I'm at, especially with Philly. So I think I'm ready for it." So I love that outlook for him. And frankly, this isn't a conversation that I want to dig into a ton. I took my little jabs on Twitter at some of the people having some, words about the way that he dresses or the nail polish or whatever that means. The bottom line is this guy is here to help the Sixers win basketball games. Now, in the wider scale, the Sixers still have plenty of work to do. That there was not that third star. There was no Brandon Ingram trade or anything notable. Free agency does not kick off until July 1st. And right now, there's still a blank canvas of a roster behind him. But all the Sixers can do is get better piece by piece, and that's what they did by bringing in Jared McCain. He does measure in at 6'3", and that's probably the biggest legitimate concern that you can have in him is, can he share the floor with Maxey? Now, I am optimistic in that. Now, number one, because of the fact that I think Tyrese Maxey deserves a ton of credit for improving as a defender last year. That I think no longer we can have Tyrese Maxey circled as a guy who is a poor defender. I think at worst, he's an average defender, and I honestly would fight the good fight that I think he's a little bit better than that at that point. That opens up the door to have a guy like Jared McCain. And McCain's not a guy who's going to be a turnstile defensively. Yes, he's smaller. Yes, there's going to be certain matchups that he cannot take, but he's competitive. I'm going to use the Reed Shepherd comparison again because they played the same position, and Reed Shepherd played at Kentucky, Jared McCain at Duke. Shepherd's a guy who shot 52% from 3, so unreal off-the-charts number there. McCain, almost as good of a shooter, and a guy that I think was better defensively than Shepherd. Shepherd has a ton of steals and block numbers that jump off the charts, but Shepherd was a little bit more of what I call a fake defender, a guy that was a steals and block merchant, that he was more about jumping passing lanes, trying to, jab in there and get a steal rather than sliding his feet and defending. McCain will do that he will take his matchup personally. He's also a guy that can attack off the dribble, finished pretty well at the rim, about 60% this season in college. He's got a little bit of an in-between game, certainly a dribble bag that he can get to, and he also spoke a ton following his post-game being drafted about one of the areas that he's really worked since coming out of college and preparing for the NBA draft is the pick and roll reads and being a primary ball handler. I do think his overall future is likely more of a point guard than he has played to this point. I think there is a real world where he is the perfect combo guard match with Tyrese Maxey, that this could be the potential backcourt of the future of the Sixers. That is the direction they are leaning in. Now, I know the focus still needs to remain on being win now, but I think Jared McCain is more built for this moment than people are giving him credit. That there is a chance that from day one he's able to show up, and I do think he changes the vibe of this team a little bit. There was a cool quote from Sam Vinici that I did want to pull up here. He said, quote, "The intel on McCain isn't just good, it's elite. He ticks every single box from a character perspective and is known to be an excellent in terms of work ethic." I love that. He's also a guy who has a relationship with the Currys, both Steph and Seth there, that he's gone to their camps, looked for advice, talked specifically to Steph Curry about how do you keep your head up when you're going through shooting slumps, and Steph Curry telling him to basically trust the work. And Jared McCain said that's a mantra that he lives by, that he is. I have not heard a single player, coach, personnel, media member to speak poorly on his work ethic or mentality, and that is really telling to me. And particularly a team like the Golden State Warriors said that he was the most impressive prospect that they worked out in the entire draft. Golden State had no means of being capable of getting him, that they would have had to move up into the first round and make a pick there, which they did not possess, so ultimately missed on the opportunity, but they did give McCain a workout, and he opened some eyes there. And the Sixers were lucky enough to be able to sit right at 16 and jump on bringing him to this team. So as I mentioned, there are some questions about what the long-term route for the Sixers team is. You still have to find a way to win now. But one of the kind of topics that I've also touched on, and to preface this a little bit, that I still would prefer for Jared McCain to at least see what he looks like on the court. He is a guy that I don't want to rush out the door by any means. But one of the reasons that the Sixers have fallen behind in a lot of these trade conversations is because they've lacked the young pieces to potentially trade in the future. You think about that Alex Caruso deal. The reason that even happened with Chicago and Oklahoma City is because Chicago was able to look at a guy like Josh Giddey, who certainly has his flaws as a basketball player, and say, you know what, we think we can fix him. We think there's a world where we're buying low on Josh Giddey. He can outperform things, and then move from there. This could be a potential franchise piece for us, that we like what we see in that young player. The Sixers just straight up lack those amount of young players that could attract that level of interest from opposing teams. Sure, they have guys like Ricky Council, who's not even on a guaranteed contract, or Terquavion Smith, who's still technically a free agent, even though the Sixers have his restricted free agent rights. They don't have these young prospects that are capable of being flipping. At the worst, McCain is a guy that could play himself into that, play himself into a future trade chip. Or, at the best, he's an immediate impact player. That when you think about these Sixers overall and what their shortcomings have been as a team, it's never been defense. It's always been their inability to score the ball or having enough options scoring. I like the concept of having another guy who can straight up fill it up, and Jared McCain is a guy that can change the game with his ability to score. You just take a look at the NCAA tournament this year. Against JMU in the second round, this man poured in 22 points in the first half, hit 8 3-pointers total in the game, and everything ran through him. It was his moment. He was pumping his chest. He was letting everybody know about it. He plays with a chip on his shoulder intensity, and I love that about him. I'm very excited to see what Jared McCain can do, and I do think that there is a real world where him and Maxey work together far better than people are giving him credit. And when you do think about, actually the route to winning and building for this Sixers team, shooting is the name of the game. That when you're looking at the Boston Celtics and New York Knicks of the world, it's going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. That when they have the Jaylen Browns, the Jason Tatums, the OG Ananobis, the Mikal Bridges, the Jalen Brunsons, really the wings is the category that these teams have leaned in. Obviously, the Sixers need to address that. They have nobody right now. They're going to have to find a way to match up. But do you feel great about the Sixers finding wings better than the names that I just named? I don't. Then that's been a massive concern. So how do you change that? Well, number one, you have Joel Embiid, who's by far the best player, even with all those names that I just brought to the table, and by far the best player, even when you line up every single player on each of those teams. And then you look at the guard position. Maybe you just have to outscore him from that. That maybe we're trading Jaylen Brown 2s and a drive to the basket for a Jared McCain 3. If you're just knocking down three-pointers on an every possession basis, that's a little bit different story. So, no, I know I'm emphasizing and saying this for a little bit of dramatic effect here, but that being the point is they're leaning in a different direction and finding a different identity there. I love this Jared McCain pick. I know the job is not done from an off-season standpoint, but this is the right pick at 16, a guy that can make a day one impact and could grow into a foundational piece if things shake out right. If not, he could be a trade chip. He could be a guy that could be moving forward. I've seen a little bit of comparisons for Landry Shamet. I frankly think that's a little bit disrespectful to Jared McCain, that I think he's a way better player than Jared McCain and will be, or than Landry Shamet and will be at the NBA level. But ultimately, we will find out from here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in this video here. I will be back tomorrow with a ton more to break down from day 2 of the NBA draft, as well as whatever Daryl Morey breaks down in the press conference, which is going on as we speak, that I'm about to tap into and get all those quotes as well. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Once again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and I'll talk with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.